The Honourable Mrs Henderson.
Thank you, Mr President. My questions are to the Attorney-General. Attorney, can you please provide an update on the Standing Council of Attorneys-General meeting held in February of this year regarding vicarious liability stemming from the Bird and DP High Court decision? And could you please advise if the government is drafting any legislation in light of these discussions?
Call the Attorney-General.
I thank the honourable member for her question. There was a discussion at the last Standing Council of Attorneys-General meeting about the matter that's known as Bird and the implications it has, particularly into the employment-like relationships and therefore the liability of various institutions. A number of jurisdictions have made changes to their law, including South Australia, to have those employment-like relationships come in under. So there is that liability for institutions who have people in employment-like relationships. All of the jurisdictions who've made changes have made it prospective, not retrospective, which it would need to influence things like what happened in the case of Bird. The Royal Commission into Institutional Sexual Abuse made recommendations that jurisdictions should introduce such laws to make that law change. It also was very clear that it ought not be retrospective, but that is something that was discussed and further work to be done by and report back at further meetings of the Standing Council of Attorneys-General.
Mr President.
Supplementary question arising from the answer.
Can the Minister please advise if, depending on outcomes from further work being done, the government will be legislating to look at retrospective vicarious liability legislation?
I think for a question, it's too early to say that. Certainly I've had a number of meetings and representations with people and groups who have very different views on this issue. From memory, I think it's Victoria is the jurisdiction that's leading the further work for the Standing Council of Attorneys-General. We will wait for that work to be completed before we say anything about whether there will be law change, but it certainly remains on the agenda.